Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on whenever it is you're watching this. Okay, for those of us that have watched my previous video on the MySQL Power BI project, you will definitely have an idea of how to use SQL and Power BI for data analysis. However, this project is going to be something similar, but this time we're going to be changing some things. For our visualization, we won't be using the conventional visualization tools like Excel, spreadsheet, Tableau, or Power BI. We are going to be using something called Pop SQL to do our visualizations after doing our queries with SQL queries. Okay, so stay with me while I walk you through this project. Okay, so basically, what we'll be looking to do throughout this project is the first thing is definitely to understand the business problem, because that's like the first bus stop for every data analytics or data science or whatever project it is you're working in. You need to understand the business problem. All right, so after that, we want to collect our data, right? Then load our data into our DBMS. For this project, we're going to be using DBLite browser for SQLite, and then we're going to be connecting this database to Pop SQL. Then we're also going to be doing some data exploration and data cleaning, data analysis and data visualization. Then we're going to present our findings, which is our insights, and recommend some possible solutions to the stakeholders of the company whom we are working with. Right, so first thing we want to understand the business problem. So we are working with Ablom Limited, right? A visionary company. They are set to expand their chain of stores across the United States, and they are focusing on strategic growth. But they want us to analyze their sales activity for the last 7 years. But we are going to they want us to start from 2016, 2018. Then by examining the revenue generation across such sections such as brands, products, cities, the company wants to uncover valuable insights to drive its expansion plan, which means they're looking to expand, their business. They want to expand into more cities in the United States and possibly more states in the United States, right? So what they want us to do is understand where the profit is coming from so they can know what to focus on when putting up this expansion plan. And how can we do that? Simply by analyzing the data that they will be providing for us. All right, so now we want to get our data set. So the data has been collected internally, which means we're using internal data source from the database of the company. So for this data set, you can either download it through Google Sheets. The link is provided in the video description, or download the database file from the GitHub repo provided in the video description, right? So let's get right into it, right? So before we load our data into the DBMS, I've already downloaded my data set. I use the Google Sheet link to download my data set so I can manually show you how you can load your data from SQLite and connect it to Pop SQL. All right, so after we've downloaded our data, the next thing we want to do is we want to go to SQLite. So I'm going to be moving this stuff to SQLite. Right. So what I'm going to be doing now is simply I have to create a new database, right? So doing this, I have to create a new database, and this database, I want to call it Ablon. So I already have Ablon. I already have Ablon database here. I already have the Ablon database stored. I'm just going to save this as Ablon project. Then I'm going to click on save. So it's telling me to create a new table, but I don't want to do that. There's no need for me to do that. Okay, so what I just want to do is cancel this, then go to File, Import Table from CSV file. Okay, so after clicking that, I'll just go to my downloads where I have my data and I have bike stores there already. So I'll click on open. Okay, so everything is in place. Column fields, column names in first line. You want to check this. So this is DBLite browser for SQL. Why I prefer this is because it doesn't occupy much memory on my machine. But for those of you using MySQL, okay, you can just go back to the previous video I made showing you how to load data, CSV files into MySQL. So straightforward process, all right? Then all you just have to do is create database, create your database using the create database syntax, then connect your CSV file to the database as a table. Then after that, just write use your database, right? Use the database name. So it activates that database if you're using MySQL. Or if you're using DBLite browser for SQLite, this is a process you're going to be going through. I'm going to be providing you the link where you can download DBLite browser for SQLite. And I think it's no more than 20 MB. So it will be suitable for those of us running low memory machines. Okay, so after this is all set, column names in first line, you have to check. If not, it will be showing you field 1, field 2, and all that. So check this. So after checking this, the next thing you would want to do is to just click on OK, and we are good to go. So now we have our table and our database all set. So all what I just want to do is save all, which means my database is saved. So the next thing I want to do now is to go to Pop SQL. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is, so this is Pop SQL. This is how Pop SQL looks like. The link to download Pop SQL is in the video description. So let's download it. I think it's 200 MB. So you can connect MySQL, a lot of databases, even SQL Server to Pop SQL, and also make your visualizations. So right now, I want to connect the database we just created, right? So I'm going to delete this one I have here. So for us to connect our database that we've already created with the use of SQLite, DBLite browser for SQLite, I'll just click on new connection, let's add new connection. Then we go down, click on SQLite. Then it's going to tell me to choose my file, my database file. So I'll just choose so this is Ablon project. Then I'll click on open. So I'm going to click on test to see if it's going to connect. So it's telling me looks good. Then I can go ahead to connect my database. Awesome. So now my database is connected. So now my database is connected. You can see, clicking on this arrow, I'll see tables 1, bike stores, the bike stores data we downloaded from Google Sheets. Then we have all the columns, all good to go. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is go to the queries section, right? Then it's going to tell me add new query. So I can choose any of these options, but I want to use a fresh one. So yeah, I'm going to be adding a new query file where I can write my SQL queries. So for those of us downloading Pop SQL, you're going to notice that your result pane is on the side, Okay, the result pane is on the side. So I want to put my own to the bottom, just like my SQL. So it's all looks the same. So now we want to go ahead to writing our SQL queries. Okay, so that takes us into the next stage of our project. That takes us into the next stage of our project, which is data exploration and data cleaning. All right, so now we want to explore our data, what it looks like, because we have our table set, and we also want to do just a little bit cleaning on the data, changing the name of a column and all that, because I think every other thing is good for us to go, but we want to make sure that our data set is ready and complete. So I'm going to go back to Pop SQL, and the first query I want to write. So I've already written these queries down, so I might just be a little bit fast in them. The first query I want to write is I want to view the entire data set, right? So I'm going to run this query. Okay, so I can see the entire data set here, order ID, customer, city, states, and all that. So these are all my data. Then we can see something here saying field 6. We want to change this. So we're just going to do small data cleaning on this just to change the name of that particular column. So what we want to do is we want to change the name of that column to month column, okay, so that we can always recognize it as a month column. So this is the query for that, okay. Okay, so this is the query we're going to use. We're just going to say alter. We want to alter the table, which is we want to update it, right? We want to alter the table, telling SQL that from our table called bike stores, we have a column called field 6, and we want to change the name of that column to months. We want to rename the name of that column. So all we just have to do is run this query, and we're good to go. So what SQL does is that it renames that column from field 6 to months. So to check if that's done correctly, we are going to see our new, so we can see month here instead of field 6, right? So that is basically the only data cleaning that we're going to be doing on our data sets. Okay, that is the only data cleaning we're going to be doing on our data set, nothing more. And yeah, so every other thing is going to be done with direct queries to give the stakeholders what they are looking for, which is sales activity in the company by looking at the revenue generated. Okay, so that takes us into the next part of this project, which is data analysis and visualization with SQL. And some of you might be wondering, how do you use SQL to do visualizations? But we can use SQL to do visualizations. Even in SQLite browser, we can use SQL to do visualization. But I love Pop SQL because it has a look, it has a look of Power BI and Tableau, which is really direct. Sometimes you actually think it works with AI, but it automatically generates these visualizations for you. All right. So now we go to Pop SQL to start writing our visuals, start writing our queries to answer these questions. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to look at the number of, we have a row, a column called months, but instead of just looking at the revenue in that month, we want to look at, first of all, the number of items. Now we want to look at the sum of revenue, total revenue generated, and total units sold. We also want to look at the number of orders made. We also want to look at the number of customers that actually bought from Ablon Limited in the space of from 2016 to 2018. We also want to look at the number of sales reps in the company, the number of products sold, cities where they have their stores, and also the states. We want to look at the product categories and the number of stores and brands that they actually have. Okay, so what we're just going to do is I'm going to copy this query. So what I've just said is I'm going to copy the query so we can actually see what I'm talking about. So now we want to look at the total revenue, total units sold, the number of orders, the number of customers, and the number of sales rep. Okay, so if I run this query, that actually answers that question for us. Okay, so from what we can see here, we can see total revenue generated is 1.37 million. Total units sold is over 7,000 units. Then we have number of orders, right? Unique orders were 1,615. So if I take away this distinct from the unique orders, I'm going to be seeing number of orders, even the ones that were done by one customer, right? So because maybe one customer was there buying he bought a shirt, then that same customer bought in one order, they have a shirt, a shoe, and all that. Well, that would just tell us the number of items sold. Okay, so if we look at the orders, 4,722, just tells us the number of items sold. But when we're looking at number of orders, we have to now look at the distinct order ID, because 4 products can be in one order. You can have one invoice that has 20 products inside them. So that's when we're looking at it, distinct order ID. Okay, so if I run this gave me 1,615, which means that there were just 1,615 orders made of 4,722 products. We have 1,444 customers, because definitely customers are buying, one customer might buy 10 products. So you have items repeating because of one customer. Then we have sales reps, 6 sales reps. So now we are done with looking at that, but now we also want to know other information like the number of cities, number of states where they have their stores. They look at the products, categories, brands, and stores. So these queries are going to be provided in the in my GitHub, so you can always just follow through while I explain this project over. I've done this project before, so I'm just copying and pasting these codes. So I run this, and this gives me I can see 195 cities, right? Then we have 3 states, 195 different cities. That's a very big store. They have 195, they have their stores in 195 different cities. Then they have in 3 states in the United States. Then we have the products. They are selling over 278 products, different products. Then these 278 different products fall under 7 categories, 7 product categories. Then all these products are gotten from 9 different brands, and they have just 3 different stores. That means you can see ShopRite in 195 different cities. You might see Market Square in 195 different cities. You might see something like Spa in 195 different cities. That's what this means. Okay, these stores they're just 3 different stores, but they are spread across 195 different cities. Okay, so this is just basic exploration. We're just trying to see what is going on in the data set. So the next thing we want to look at, revenue by year. We want to look at the revenue by year, which means for 2016, 2017, and 2018, how much was actually made during these 3 years? So we can say we can want to look at how much actually made in these 3 different years. So we're going to copy and paste that code as usual. So if I run this query, now this shows me how much was made in 2016, and I ordered it by okay, I want to order this by revenue. So I'm going to say total revenue. I don't want the name to be same as the original value. So I'm going to I want to order it by revenue. Then I'm sure 2017 comes. So what I did before was to order it by year. So it shows from 2016, 2017, and 2018. But now I want it to be ordered by revenue, which means starts from the highest, 2018. Okay, starts from the lowest, 2018. But I want this to start from the highest. So I'm going to use the descending function syntax, I mean. So we can see here, this starts from 2017, which is the highest, which means they had more sales activity in 2017, right? Then followed by 2016 and then 2018. So the next thing I want to look at is, I want to look at how much they actually made for each month, okay? How much was made in each month. So we've looked at years, now we want to look at months. Okay, so I'm just going to copy, I'm going to run this code so we can see how much was actually made in each month. So if I drag this up, we can see April being the highest month, being the month with the highest sales activity. The month with the highest sales activity is April in the space of that 3 years. Then the month with the lowest sales activity is November. This can be understandable because I mean people might not really be looking to buy. Maybe they've gotten what they need and they're stuck during the holiday period. But the months April, March, February, March, April are the months with like the first 3 months with the highest sales activity going on in the company. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at is, so now we are answering, we're already looking at the sales activity in the company one after the other using SQL queries, right? So the next thing I want to do now is I want to look at this sales activity by seasons, okay? Sales activity by seasons. So I'm going to, but the first thing, before I do that, I have to group my months into seasons. So we have January, February, March. Oh, okay. This should be, okay. So instead of January, February, March, I need it to be December. So this should be December, January, and February should fall under the winter. So what I'm just trying to tell SQL is, if it's January, if it's December, January, or February, let it fall under winter. Then if it's March, April, May, let it fall under spring. Then if it's June, July, August, let it fall under summer. Then September, October, November should be autumn, right? So that means any other thing that is not in this month should be autumn, right? Then after doing that, I want you to end it as season, which means put it as a column, season. Then I also want to look at the total revenue. I want you to add all the revenue together, put it in a column called total revenue. Then I also want you to add all the units together, put it in a column called total units sold. Now I'm getting this information from the bike stores. Then I want you to group it by season, something similar to this. Group it by season and order by the total revenue. Okay, so I'm going to run this so you have an understanding what I'm trying to do. Awesome. So here we can see spring is the season with the highest revenue, right? It has the highest revenue, and there's a very good relationship between the revenue and the total units sold, which means as the units that is being sold increases, revenue also increases. So which we can see here, the second one has the second highest units sold. So which means there's a very good correlation. It might not be a positive factor, but there's a very good relationship between the revenue and the units sold. So we can see spring, winter, autumn, and summer. In that order, they are the more seasons with the highest sales activity. That which is spring as the highest and summer as the lowest. So the next thing we want to do now is we want to know the store that is actually giving us more money over the last, that has given us more money over the last three in the year 2016, 2017, and 2018. So this is the query we're going to use for that. We're saying select store name, which is the column store name, then add all the revenue together in all the stores and the total units sold, okay, and the total units, right, from the by stores table. Then group it by store name. We want something like this, but this time around for the store names. Then order it by total revenue in descending order. So I run this. This shows me a table for all the stores. Remember, we have 3 stores. Then Baldwin Bikes, Santa Cruz Bikes, and Roland Bikes. Okay, so these are store names. That means these bikes, they actually, all what they do is sell bikes, right? But we want to know which of these stores has given us the highest revenue for in 2016, 2017, and 2018. We can choose to write, use a where clause and just specify where the year is 2017 or where the year is 2018. And we are looking for sales activity in a specific year. Okay, so now we've gotten that for the store names. Now we have seen the store with the highest sales activity for those 3 years. The next thing we want to do is we want to look at the city that is actually giving us more revenue. But this time around, we want to focus on the first 10 cities. Remember, we have over 100 cities, and 195 cities, if I'm correct, right? So now we are looking at which city is actually giving us the highest revenue. But this time around, I want us to focus, what we're telling SQL is focus on the first 10 cities, okay? Focus on the first 10 cities. So remember why I'm saying first 10 cities is because we used our order by descending order. So it starts from the highest, right? So don't make a mistake by not putting descending order. You're thinking is the first 10 cities. No, that will be the 10 lowest cities, right? But this time around, we're looking at a descending order. So it starts from the highest. So we can say these are the first 10 cities. So let me run this query. So this shows us the first 10 cities that are giving us most revenue, right? We can look at Scarsdale, Boughton Spa, Canandaigua, South El Monte, Campbell, and all that down to Houston. Okay, we have Buffalo there, but the city with the highest revenue generated in those 3 years is Scarsdale with $18,722. Okay, with a unit sold, 92 units sold. So remember I said units sold and total revenue, they are not positive factors because you can see 79 units sold here is being is coming in as a third revenue generator. And then 75 units sold is coming as a second revenue generator. So it's not always a positive factor, but there can always be a correlation, which is a relationship between the two. Okay, so now we have seen for the cities. The next thing we want to do now is we want to look at for product category. What product category is actually giving us revenue in the company? Okay, so same queries. I just changed some of these stuffs by what we're looking for. So I changed city just to product category, to category name. Okay, so this should be, so I'm just going to run this. We're looking at what product category is giving us the highest revenue. And from what we can see, cruisers bicycles. Cruisers bicycles gives us much more revenue, which means people actually spend more money buying cruisers bicycle than electric bikes or road bikes or cyclocross bicycles. Okay, so people spend more money buying cruisers bikes, which means that definitely the company are looking to focus on more sales. They can let go of electric bikes, cruisers bikes, and focus more on the first three bikes that are giving them more revenue in the entire company. Okay, so now we've done for product category. The next thing we want to do now is we want to look at the brand. What brand is actually moving the market? What brand are people more interested in buying from? Because you might have cruisers bike from a brand that doesn't really move well in the markets. But because of its cruisers bike, I mean, it falls under the place that it's selling because it's under cruisers bike. But out of all these bikes, what brand are people more interested in? What brand is selling more, right? So we just want to look at the the brands with the highest revenue generated. So we can see Electra is coming first, right? Definitely Electra, most of Electra's bicycle would fall under the cruiser's bike because remember, the cruiser's bike, from our stuff here, cruiser's bike generated over $500,000, while Electra as a brand generated over $600,000. Right, so that means Electra moves well in the market, followed by some bicycles, then pure cycles. Okay, so definitely the company I want to let go of Hella, Strider, and maybe Richie, or let go of the bikes from fifth position down to ninth position because most likely these bikes don't really move well in the market. So why not focus on your finances or what is moving in the markets, right? So all our queries, all the queries we need to write are all good to go, right? All what we just need to do now is focus on our visualizations. So the wonderful thing about Pop SQL is that you don't need to export your data to do visualizations, right? Isn't that wonderful? You don't need to export your data to do visualizations. All you just need to do is visualize your data. So for example, I'm going to cancel all this. Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to run with this. So I'm going to start here. We're just looking, this is where we're looking at revenue, sales activity in the company. So I'm going to run this particular data. So now we're looking at the years with the highest revenue, right? So all I just need to do is click on explore. This particular table expands. And the next thing I want to do is click on charts. So when I click on charts, all I want to say is edit charts. Then instead of a scatter plot, I'll just choose a bar plot. So automatically it generates this data for me in a bar plot, right? So I can choose to save the charts. Okay, yeah, so that's saved. So what I want to do is explore. Then now I can see my chart, right? So everything is looking wonderful, just the way I want it to be. So now we can see visually that the year with the highest revenue generated is 2017, followed by 2016, then 2018. Okay, so I want to show my value labels. So that's all. So here you can come here to just do some changes to your dashboard, just like as you would do in Tableau or Power BI, right? Just as you would do in Tableau or Power BI. So it's all the same thing. Everything is just looking the same, but there's a Pop SQL makes it so automatic. So I'm just going to click on save. So while this saves takes me back to my payroll results, then I'm going to do the same for yeah. So I'm going to do the same for my so I'm going to do the same for the months. So I'll just run this, then click on explore. Then I'll go to charts. So now I can now see the month with the highest, which is April, followed by no, everything is just so I'm not going to put my okay, so I'm going to select bar chart. Then okay. So definitely I want to also select my so this is months. Then I want to select my y-axis, which is awesome. So now everything is looking good. Then show value label. So now I can see the amount that was actually generated in each of this months. Okay, so I can just click on save charts. Then so that's the wonderful thing about working with Pop SQL, right? It's automatic, really automatic. So it's really automatic. So I can do the same for the seasons, which will run this query for the seasons. So all I just need to do is explore, then come to charts, and yeah, I'm good to go. This is showing me all I need to see. I can see spring as the highest, followed by winter. Then we have autumn. Then summer is definitely the one at the bottom. So I also want to look at store name. What I want to visualize what store is actually giving me the highest revenue. So I'm going to run that query, click on explore, then come to charts, and I have my visualization in place. Okay, so I have Baldwin bikes, as you can see, with the highest. Then we have Santa Cruz bikes, and we have Roland bikes. So this is an automatic visualization. You can also change the color. You can zoom in, zoom out, do your data view. It's just wonderful. I actually prefer this than most times I prefer this than Power BI or Tableau, because you still have to connect your data sets to this stuff. But in Pop SQL, as you're working on your data, as you're writing your queries, you can automatically see do your visualizations. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to go ahead to do visualizations for this for the remaining part of the project, right? Then the next thing we want to do is we want to present our findings to the Ablon, to the shareholders or stakeholders of Ablon Limited, right? Get your visuals in check. After you've done your visions, you can just arrange them in a presentation slide. I would always prefer you use Canva when doing your presentation slides. Okay, Canva or Google Slides but I'll always prefer Canva because Canva has a lot of resources, a lot of images you can use to make your presentations more appealing. Okay, your presentation should always consist of introduction, body, conclusion, or recommendation. Okay, then after doing that, you can then move into recommendations. So from what I can recommend here, I'll always recommend them to deal more with Electra as a brand, then they could focus more of their resources on cruiser bikes since people are spending more money on cruiser bikes. Then for most of the states that meet the average revenue generated or that are more than the average revenue generated, they can focus on what's actually working in those particular states and then use it to amend those states that don't actually meet up to average. Okay. Then one other thing I would suggest Ablon Limited should do is getting rid of these products or brands that are not actually generating much, because most of these products might actually be obsolete, like staying in the stores or in the warehouse for a long period of time, and they might damage and actually turn to bad product, causing the company, making the company lose funds over time. Because once you start losing funds in a very minute way or minute amount, it adds up and forms this kind of compound loss, because $1 lost 365 times is basically $365. So the company doesn't want to do that, right? So that is what I'm going to recommend based on what I have in my head, right? But you trying out this project, you would want to make your visualizations in Tableau, make your visualizations in Power BI, anyone you want, or you want to try out Pop SQL. Trust me, Pop SQL is awesome. I actually use Pop SQL all the time. So I'm always here to answer your questions. If you have any questions, just drop a comment on the comment box. Or, however, if you feel that this resource is good for you, please hit the subscribe button, and more videos and more projects on SQL, Power BI, Python, and actually, yeah, data science projects are going to be coming up soon. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.